Digital Extremes, who you may know as being the creators of Warframe, just dropped a pretty chunky new update for Soulframe, their new upcoming game that's basically in alpha, or as they like to call it, Preludes, and they just recently dropped Prelude 12 Wylds. This one brings in new founders packages, fresh gameplay iterations, a big step forward for the new player experience, and some really meaningful quality of life changes. Honestly, after spending some time with this update, getting access to some of the beginner packs from Digital Extremes, I can say that it's really starting to actually feel like Soulframe is coming together as something awesome. In this video, I'm going to quickly reintroduce what Soulframe actually is for anyone new or who hasn't heard of it, then we'll break down what Prelude 12 adds in, including a new Greatsword weapon type, the new Nightfold vendor, and most importantly, 3 new Pact style classes that you can now play around with. So let's get into it. If you've not been keeping an eye on Soulframe over the last couple of years, well, this is Digital Extremes' next major project, and it's a massive shift away from the sci-fi chaos that you may know in Warframe. You see, Soulframe is a free-to-play action RPG with light MMO elements. It's set in a dreamlike fantasy world inspired by nature, decay, and restoration. Instead of futuristic guns and space ninjas like in Warframe, this game is all about steel, magic, nature, and beasts in ancient ruins that are shaped by industrial corruption. You play as an envoy, a kind of wandering champion that works to restore the balance of the world. And the world itself, well, it's been twisted by mechanical and environmental ruin. The combat in this game is slower and more deliberate than Warframe, with a much heavier emphasis on stamina, timing, your positioning, and reading enemy attacks. Think of it as having more grounded, melee-focused combat, with an almost Souls-like rhythm to it, but with online persistence and shared spaces. To me, what makes Soulframe especially interesting though is how public its development has been. Instead of keeping everything behind closed doors, Digital Extremes have been rolling out these early playable builds called the Preludes. These are essentially a live test that players can jump in to experience the new systems, how the combat changes, the updates to the world, and stuff like that. With each prelude, you can really see how the game is evolving and becoming more confident. And this brings us to Prelude 12 Wylds. This is essentially a very big step forwards. It includes 3 pacts that act like class identities, or at least gives you better access to them, a brand new weapon grip type that's the Greatsword, a full rework of the new player experience, fast travel to get around more smoothly, major siege updates, new enemies, new bosses, and just a mountain of changes across the board. Compared to earlier preludes, to be honest, this one feels like a major milestone. The flow of the game is a lot smoother, onboarding is cleaner, combat finally starts to feel like it has some real weight behind it, and it's the first time where I've personally logged back in and thought, yes, this is feeling like a real game now. One of the big mechanical additions to Preludes 12 is the Greatsword grip type. I can feel the Greatsword mains from Monster Hunter rejoicing over this addition. It's a heavy, sweeping, high-impact weapon built around slow, deliberate, and devastating strikes. There's also several Greatsword variants being added in, with full lore attached to them. One of the standout examples is Needle's Eye, this unusual Greatsword from the Child Queen Muriel Jotar. Then there's Purity, the undead Greatsword of the Mendicant Knight. And there's another one for the Paragon Founders Pack. Another cool addition is a brand new NPC in the Nightfold named Zenith, described as a Dale Seer camel that somehow arrived in the Nightfold without being noticed by the Ode. This NPC is a mysterious merchant that has some new offerings, and although it is small, it is a meaningful addition, as it gives you access to something simple like the shop that feels more intertwined into the game world and your own hub area, rather than just doing it through menus. Sieges have also been given some heavy iterations as well, with Fort Kalail receiving major updates to its structure, flow, and objectives. On top of that, the new player experience has basically been revamped, so early progression flows a lot better, which was desperately needed, so this is a really good addition. And fast travel's been added in, which is just a huge quality of life win, so I love to see that. But the biggest part of this update, at least to me, was being able to try each of the Pact classes that are basically in the game. These act more like core identity paths for how you want to shape and play your envoy, and they dramatically influence how you approach combat. I basically gained access to a sort of starter version of each of these. I didn't have them fully leveled, it does take some time, And the Founders Packs essentially give you these with better looking armor and weapons and probably some extra goodies. Now, as I said, I didn't have these all leveled up to the maximum, but I did play each one to get an idea of the playstyle, and boy, are they different. The first is the Tethran. This pact leans heavily into strength, being what is effectively the warrior or soldier playstyle. It's also what I chose when I first played the Preludes for the first time. Think of it as being built around being a frontline soldier. But note, you don't get access to all 3 skills right away. But eventually you will get Fellust to do rapid strikes for damage on your enemies, Call of the Ancients, which will draw aggro and increase your damage and defense, and then Clash to stagger and stun enemies in a shockwave around you. This is a very satisfying playstyle. It is very much about just using your sword, doing parries, timing your attacks, and all that stuff. Very satisfying, especially if you come from other action games where you're used to melee attacks. But then we have the Shelder. This is like your classic archer and ranged fighter. It packed a real punch even at level 1 when I was trying it against higher level enemies, and boy did I fall in love with this one. It's definitely going to be my new go-to choice. Hitting charged arrows felt weighty and visceral, raining arrows down on enemies was just awesome, and even the basic healing ability called Elder Bloom was extremely useful and just looked great. At higher levels, you can petrify enemies with Bestone, or call in a flock of birds to attack enemies. I just loved this class. Then you finally had the Siren. This one has stronger ties to the magical and spiritual side of the world in Soulframe. Basically, it's the mage class, but it has a rogue or assassin twist to it. It's really interesting. You can attack from range with lock-on magical attacks that look nice and just felt good to do, although it did feel a bit weaker compared to the other classes I tried, but maybe that's because I just didn't level it up enough. The basic skill is Glamour. It kind of like turns you into butterflies and lets you go invisible. Then you can even backstab enemies like you're an assassin. At higher levels, you can get Pick Tricks to blind enemies, and Trick of the Light to create a decoy. It's a very interesting mage-assassin mix. And what's really exciting here is that each of these packs aren't just like different superficial themes. They really do change how you actually play the game and do combat completely. So this is where the game really starts to show some depth in its RPG systems. Each of these packs, as said before, are in each of the new Founders packages that were added in this Prelude 12. And after spending time with this Prelude, I can say this is easily the most confident version of Soulframe that I've played so far. Combat's a lot tighter, progression is clearer, the world feels better, and these new class identities really do give you a sense of direction in how you want to build your character. The game, of course, very much does still feel like it's in development. It's by no means a finished released game here. It is still in Prelude. But honestly, this update feels like the start of some real momentum. I'm very excited to see where Soulframe will go. I can't wait to learn more and dig my teeth into it further. And if you guys would like to keep up to date, make sure you're subscribed down below and drop a like if you found this one interesting, as we keep you up to date with Soulframe. Here at Arix Gaming, we're two friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 26.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.